Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome to a fresh, brand new edition of ASHFORD Live on Bridge Radio Africa. Today is Friday, the 31st, the last day in March 2023. This is how we go home, bringing the month to our end. And Father God, we want to glorify your name. We magnify your name. We are grateful to you. To God be the glory. And we're giving thanks, folks. I know some heard the name, some heard people talk about him. You've gotten the opportunity tonight to match the voice to the face, the mastermind, the golden voice of Liberia, the doctor of love, the medicine of the microphone, the broadcast commissioner. Just to buy a get Japan Flora and Jaco, no, Jaji, Boro Bly, Parecoyo, Boro say, Groba, Quicoyo, Secro, you should cry, Moponas Roguia, Bediacuia, a great play. Second, we are a Pelia. Africa's media do be doing extraordinary. As for the giant, that now you know me, GARLEY. Welcome to the show. And you know, folks, just before I bring in my co-hosts and panelists, there's only one thing you have in this world, and that's your name. Forget about their money. Forget about the riches. Your name is very important. How dare you mention my name in a scandal of $50,000, and then when I have the chance to vindicate myself or to talk about it, I will tell you I don't need distraction. You know why they don't come to Bridge Radio? You know why they don't come to some of these people? Because these people work hard. There's nobody in our country, including George Weah, that have money for this platform or these very sound panelists. Some people just sell their soul to the devil. Don't bring that nonsense around here. We work too hard for our name. And that's why when we are not on this platform, we go to work. You have the chance to tell the Liberian people about whether or not you told 50,000 and you say, you know what, I don't need any distraction. I'm not going to talk about it. Nonsense. The big question now is, who took $50,000 from Simon Toy? Let's find out in just a little bit. Let me bring the guys in. Folks, welcome to the show. Starting up with Lexi Brooks Roberts. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Mr. GARLEY. Good evening to my fellow panelists. I'm doing well. Thank God it's Friday.
Idatus added.
Greetings, all Liberians. Greetings to you wonderful panelists. It's Friday. I hope you're all having a great weekend at this juncture.
James Fisk.
Greetings to everyone in viewerland. It's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to dialogue with you all out there. And thanks for taking the time out to come and listen to us and to have an opportunity to understand some new stuff things that are affecting Liberia that pertains to us directly or indirectly. Thank you.
Well, folks, before we give out the topics for tonight, you know, I never heard about this before, but I just want us to listen to this guy as he tells us about Liberia and Liberia's connection to the outside world.
Of Pan-Africanism all went through Liberia. Henry Highland Garnett went through Liberia. Henry Highland Garnett, who escaped from slavery in Maryland through FDMG Delaware, becoming one of the most revolutionary Pan-Africanists in American history. He's buried in Monrovia. John Brown Russworm from Jamaica. Garvey before Garvey, who published the first black newspaper out of New York, Freedom's Journal, with FDMG Delawarean Samuel Cornish in 1827. He's buried in Monrovia. Edward Wilmot Blyden from the Bahamas, St. Thomas, came through America, went to Liberia, became Secretary of State. Alexander Crummell, who went to the Free African School in New York with Henry Highland Garnett, became the father of black social work, the first black man to build an intellectual society for black men, gave 20 years of his life to Liberia public schools. Lost a daughter over there before coming back to help organize black men to fight for their freedom in the Civil War. So there is no Pan-Africanism without Liberia. There is no Pan-Africanism without Liberia. We have to look at making Liberia once again the heart and soul of Pan-Africanism like it was.
Did you guys know about this before? Letty, Idatus, James?
Few of them, not all of them.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, this is ASHFORD Godly Live on Bridge Radio Africa. I want you to please share the video. Samuel Abu, your friends, not our friends, so please share the video. Elvis, my man, how you doing? It's been a minute. Roberta Richards, please share the video so that we can together have a great time tonight on Bridge Radio Africa. And what do we have? What do we have in store tonight, folks? We are going to be taking a look at the voters registration, trucking, violence. Second on the list, we'll talk about the presidential travel. How did it benefit Liberia? We'll talk about that. And we'll also talk about corruption. A media bribery that has to do with 50,000 United States dollars to Spoon Network, you know, and 1 year from the government as well. And then we will also talk about media rivalry between Spoon and Closing Argument. The CEO's coming. The former CEO of Spoon is coming. Benson V. Post. And then we'll talk about that is, if time permits us, we'll talk about the American ambassador calling government to give the funding needed. Okay. And then at 8:30, we'll bring in our man, J. Rennie Darpo. Okay. Rennie Darpo will be able to tell us what he knows about the $50,000. I think we should just bring Rennie in right away because he's somewhere around the block. J. Rennie is already in studio. J. Rennie, how you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing, man? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
I thought the rabbis would be the first person laughing. That's why I'm not going to church. That's why I'm not going to church. The rabbis should be the first person smiling on the show here, but he come up with a spirit face. But no, Jesus said, let your light so shine before men that he shall see your good work and glorify your Father in heaven. But the rabbis just come with a straight face. No, that's not right. That's not right, Rabbi. But let me say hi. Let me say hi to Dr. James Fix. Let me say hi to my sister Roberta. And let me say hi to the Reverend Elias. Yes, Elias.
Who your sister Roberta?
Oh, I'm thinking about my workplace sister. Yes, Sister Robert. Yes.
Thank you.
Roberta Gibson is one of my co-workers at work. So the moment I saw the Robert, my mind ran straight on that. But thanks for the correction. I think you are very alike. And I would like to say good evening to every one of you guys for such an invitation. It's always good to have the diverse conversation because it helps to enlighten our minds and the people's minds. And we got people who are invert and get people who are avert. We want to make sure that we stare the two type of personality out there through our opinions and expressions. So I forgot it. Thank you so much for giving me the
Okay.
opportunity once more again.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about voter registration. What are some of the challenges that has been faced by the voters or the will-be voters out there? We're told about so many challenges. We've seen photographs of people coming from across the border with the registration card. We're seeing people with multiple cards. What do you guys know so far? Let us begin with our dynamic co-host, Madam Letty Brooks Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Garley, and thank you, Randy. Welcome. I just see a lot of challenges. We have, again, our system is not as strong, where we have ways of being certain that people are from a certain area. Yes, they may have a little twang or something, but how do you know they're not Liberians? And secondly, they were told, do not ask people for anything besides register them. Of course, get the, besides their ID. So how do why are the registrars or registrar, why are they questioning people, asking them where they're from? So I think they are the ones that are also causing the problem, because apparently NEC has another way that they're going to vet people. If they tell you don't ask any questions besides take your ID, then you do your job, and then at the end we'll hope that that's a vetting, a way of going through this process, or these names, or these registrants, and making sure of who is who. So those are some of the challenges I see. And then, of course, the trucking, where it is so blatant that people are taking people from different places when you and say, oh, well, register wherever you register is where you will vote. But that shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that. I think it should be where you live is where you should vote. You should register.
Thank you. Is that just add the voter trucking? Is that some type of corruption? Voter registration challenges. What do you know so far?
Oh, absolutely. That is vote padding. Vote padding is clearly a result of trying to cheat in the elections. Individuals who are not residing in certain areas are, being trucked to go and vote in areas that they do not reside, which is a clear problem with the census. The census has been unable to capture, the information of demographics, which should be collected by net to reapportion or redistrict individuals who are currently living in certain areas as a result of the population increase from 4.5 to 5.3 million people. So the issue of trucking is a problem. The lack of voters' education, insufficient funding, $33 million has yet to be materialized to further speed up the process or make it more effective and efficient. Lack of adequate and professional data processor, complicating some of the restraints of the process. We don't have a national registry to determine who's Liberian, who's not Liberian, and the fact that there are young people lining the registration rolls to be able to vote without adequately identifying whether or not they are of age to vote. These are the basic challenges we're having. The potential for electoral violence, we're at that precipice of it, and that needs to be addressed with the collaboration of government and its national security apparatus, along with our international community. So there are several challenges that just uncountable. Not to mention the fact that the stations that people are supposed to go and vote, it has been reported that they are putting it in places far from those who are unable to get there to register and vote, and several other challenges, to name a few.
The very tough talking, the fearless, they call him the porcupine gut. Too juicy to get rid of and too bitter to swallow. J. Renning Darpool. Voter trucking, voter registration. What are some of the challenges out there?
Well, first of all, there will always be challenges in every system and process. All we got to do is to continue to improve it. Unfortunately, since 1847, we are not even been able to establish a standard of how things should be done. But I'm very grateful to President Weah for changing the games, for transforming things. Because you imagine in the 21st century, in the year 2023, we are talking about digitizing our electoral system when we just left 12 years of early administration with the overwhelming support. So I would say the challenges should have been part of the improvement today, but due to the failure of Madam Salif and all the other administration in the past that failed to look at the system that we have and try to re-engineer the system by providing sound education from the grassroots. So with today's election that is taking place, by trying to digitize it, I'm not going to say the system is going to be perfect. There will be deviations. There will be margin for errors. But what have the political parties been doing? When you establish a political party, it's not just to come in the street and put out people to go and protest. There are programs that every political party need to allow itself, including voter registration, voter education. They could have also, from the way they recruit members, how they catalog members across the country, it could have been a better way to, they could have suggested their own strategies to facilitate NEC and setting it out there. But nothing else they do but just criticize the government and do nothing. So the challenges are there, but I think the progress, measuring the progress versus the challenges, I think the process is improving. And I believe that in the end, the margin for error will not be as large as people who have the catastrophic mind and catastrophic behavior of seeing things will be that way. So the challenges will be overcome, but it will take everyone, all hands on deck. We're dealing with a society that live on perception illiteracy, and they use that as political entertainment rather than looking at political awareness and political information. So I would say kudos to the government from what I see prior to what I saw prior to what I'm seeing today.
Well, thank you. Mr. James T. Fisk, voter registration, what are some of the challenges out there? Jill Rennie Dapo said everybody is bad for Liberia except George Weah, and he think the government is doing such an awesome job. What is your take?
I beg, I beg to differ a little bit with J. Randy. You know, oftentimes we keep hearing this 1847 revisionist attempt by elements within or sympathizers of the CDC. And what people don't seem to understand whenever they go back to 1847, you need to ask yourself, what was the rest of Africa doing in 1847? The rest of Africa were in bondage. After Liberia got her independence in 1847, it took another 40 years, after which the rest of Africa was partitioned. So instead of always trying to denigrate what the forefathers of Liberia did, I think we need to applaud them just the same way how we listened to the video from the onset of this show, where someone was trying to enumerate those great things that make Liberia exceptional. Liberia was the only country, Liberia was colonized like the rest of Africa, but it was the only country that was colonized by Africans like ourselves. Okay. And we have to understand that having access to the resources to make the kind of changes that we wanted as a nation started after we discovered natural resources, which was around after CDB King or something like that. And the bulk of that fell under the regime of Todman, who ruled Liberia for 2 decades plus or stuff like that, and then Tolbert, and then he was overthrown. Okay, so as far as the system is concerned, okay, no doubt other administrations in the past, contemporary past, looking at the Taylors, the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and stuff like that, they should have made some improvements. But that's the essence of government. You cannot continue to look in the rearview mirror. Otherwise, there's no reason for an election. So once we've had an election in the past, and it's been 6 years in the making for the next election, I don't see what the excuse is that someone is still saying that, we still need to patch this and we need to patch this. There was this noise about biometric at some point, and then that whole thing just faded away. And then the next thing was census. The whole thing about census just faded away. I was watching something on the internet about NEC employees, okay, who were complaining that they were not having the kind of support that they would need to do the kind of work that they need to do. So these are all very, and at the end of the day, for someone to register, these people are the gatekeepers. And if these people don't receive what they need to do a good job, everything else is not going to work well. That's a recipe for failure and disaster. That's a recipe for chaos if the election gets challenged and other people feel that the results are okay.
Okay, well, folks, thanks. And if there's nothing else to add on the
As far
challenge,
I like to add a few things.
hold on, Remy.
Okay, you just said that, so I just keep
Okay,
it.
it is. I mean, I know you were coming, but we're going in sequence now. You can't just take the lead, my man. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, you said there's nothing to add.
Yeah,
That's why
I
I was
mean, nothing
basing
that
on.
in other words, we started off with Mrs. Roberts. We'll go in the sequence, then Idatus, then you, then
Okay.
Jen. We'll go to the next segment. Mrs. Roberts, do you have anything to add? Just
Yes, I just
second,
want to
please.
add
30
that.
seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add that in giving this president all this credit as Randy does, this is the same president that did not do the census until few months to elections. Isn't that his constitution and responsibility?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
When it's your time to talk, then you can answer that question.
All
Stanik,
right.
do you have anything to add? 30 seconds.
Yeah, it is become a political recitation, in the words of Acarius Gray, for the seditions to constantly look in the view mirror of 1847. But the truth is, when you juxtapose Liberia, 1847, and you come to the 60s, we're the second largest economy in the world, whereas Liberia now under this administration's economy. Make no mistake, under the Talbot's administration, a generation that you and I very well are aware of, did better economically, infrastructurally, compared to now. Our education was better. Our healthcare system was better. You could go to JFK and have medications there. So this distraction of 1847 is simply a reflection of this government and its sympathizers' inability to lead with the mandate that has been given. The kleptocracy is highly prevalent. Rampant corruption, for which Togo's government was overthrown, has become the normalization and a culture of today, where there is no remorse. Men are being sanctioned within the government, but yet still have participation in the government. Our president can leave the country for 48 days and then 11 days and come back with odd results. And yet and still you're claiming that we were better off than 1847. Well, Liberia started at the time with just 3 counties. 1847 to now, the generation we grew up in from the 80s to now has everything to do with a better education, better healthcare system. People were getting paid on time. This type of violence was not prevalent in the country. What do we see now? Insecurity at its apex under this government. So, Mr. Dapo, make no mistake, if 1847 has become the view mirror, then you may as well turn the keys over to the presidential mansion so that mature, intelligent, and competent group of people can lead in the person of Joseph Boyka. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dapo, you can now come in.
Yeah, let me start from top to bottom. I think Joseph Boyka, present in contemporary Liberian politics, is belated. I mean, he finds himself in an environment that personally he doesn't fit because of how things are today. But let me start with Sis Robert. Constitutionally, you are absolutely right that the censorship are taking place, but we have a power sharing government, and that has to do with the national legislature that represent the people. They don't have what I would call a ballot tracking system, because if they have staff who will monitor what they do and their responsibility, just in case the executive falls short, they should be calling on whoever is in charge to execute that duty on time and why it is not being executed. So with that being said, yes, you are absolutely right. The census wasn't done on time, but it is being done. And it is being done based on the schedule that was set by the ministry that is in charge. But the failure of the national legislature to create check and balance in the system goes to show that both of them who are in the opposition don't really know exactly what they are doing. Now, when you talk about 1847, and I would say many times from the academic approach, we often go into history of whatever subject we study before we go into the main point of the studies and go into the most advanced point. Whenever I'm talking about Liberia, I often like to take a historical approach because the fact that we were founded, it means that we had to have started from somewhere and we have to measure our performance over time. So when people try to cut off those aspects, then it tells me that they are not interested in learning the history of our country, and there should be no reason why they should challenge the future. Because they often celebrate their birthday from a personal standpoint. And the purpose of doing that is to see how much they are accomplished. When we celebrate our independent days, we measure other countries. Dr. Frisch talked about Ghana and other countries and Liberia. We all started from scratch one. But even the countries that are much more younger than us, how come today they are making they are striving all the time because of the collective effort, because of the constructive criticism. I think before President Weah came to office, there is something in leadership we call agree community, agree legislature. That means they agree with everything the past government has
Table
done.
seconds, please.
They don't want to see themselves in a situation where they will disagree and it become a problem. So yes, the reason why we are to where we are today, Ashford and everyone, is because the past administrations have failed to create innovation that should have improved things today. But instead, Mr. Weah is even establishing the thing and putting it into practice. And that's why people are trying to criticize today. That makes no sense to me. He's doing everything that was never done for 170 years.
Thank you, Randy. Well, folks, if you're just joining us tonight, this is ASHFORD God Live on Brace Radio Africa. We come your way Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays from 8 to 10 p.m. here on your favorite space. You might just want to please tell friends, relatives, and loved ones to log in and share the video. Share the video, folks, if you just joined up, Mr. Henry Yanko, please share the video. Godwin, we adore, share the video, please. McCarthy Johnson, share the video. Liberia first. Deconte J, please do us that favor by sharing the video. Mr. James T. Face.
Yeah, and I would disagree with Randy again. It's one thing to retrospectively look at your history from a point of praise, and it's another thing to use that as a premise to lay false accusations. Okay. What was the rest of Africa doing in 1847? Nothing. The rest of Africa was basically nothing. Okay. And if you had a bunch of leaders who could maintain the independence of Liberia under that political wind of colonization that swept all across Africa, I think you should give them credit rather than sit and just criticize. And you guys from the CDC can have it both ways. You want to be in leadership, but also want to maintain an opposition mindset. You can't do that. If you want to be opposition, get out of power and then continue to advocate. But you can't say you've taken leadership and yet and still you still go back to look for 1847 for your excuses for not doing what you're supposed to do as a leadership. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. 1847, there was extreme racism, international racism all over the place because of the slave trade and the rest, those antecedents and stuff like that. So for you to now, every time we talk about the failures of the current administration, people say, oh, 1847. Let's talk about 1847. Since the overthrow of the Togo regime in 1980, it has been up to 43 years since that time. Okay, the period from Tubman up until that overthrow was like 30 years, okay, that Liberia had real boom. And some argue, rightly so, or maybe not, that Liberia saw her best years at that time. Let's for 1 minute agree. And we missed that opportunity. Is that the excuse why for the last 43 years we continue to remain stagnant and people continue to look for apology? If it was like that, people would not be flocking to the West, because Western nations would say, well, because of World War I and World War II, that's why we're not developed.
Exactly.
Okay. Every time America want to talk, they'll go back to 1822, during the time that they were founded, or perhaps maybe 1860s, when they fought the Civil War, to explain
30
failure.
seconds, please.
It's not about failures. The reason why nations progress is because people are determined to look forward rather than in the view mirror. If you want to continue to look in the view mirror, be in the opposition. It's just simple.
Thank you. Well, folks, and that wraps up our first segment. And the second one is the presidential travel. How did Liberia benefit from the president's recent visit? I want to begin with J. Randy Jabba. Could you please tell us how did we benefit from the president's recent travel from abroad, both the UAE and the United States? Take 2 minutes.
Yes, the travel of the president played a very significant role in the collaboration of Liberia relationship with the United States. For the fact that the world today, as we see it, is trying to replicate what has happened from the World War II era to the Cold War era. And I've often shown that fundamentally, academically, and practically from an experience standpoint, people often reflect on the past. I believe the president was invited to the CIA headquarters for a lot of security details that could not be revealed here. And someone who worked closely with the Department of Homeland Security, there are some classified information from being confidential, secret, and top level. These are things that the president would never disclose to anybody. But I understand that the opposition will want to score with political points, even though some of them know that the CIA is a spy organization that never in itself have any open press conference to discuss issue of security matters. But I think looking at what has happened and what is happening in Europe today, and the takeover of the Chinese across Africa, it had become a concern to the United States, and there's nobody else that they could confirm into but President Weir. We remember Kenneth Kaunda in 1983 was also invited by the CIA due to some other international affair across Africa, and he did have series of interaction with the CIA at that time. So with the president coming to meet with the CIA here, it pay is security. It is a very strategic security matters that both countries will benefit from, including the world. And I'm very grateful that President Weah was able to attend that particular invite. It was not a summer, but an invite for him to come and discuss national matter. We're not going to hear everything because of the nature and the function of that institution. Now, as far as the visit to Dubai go, I feel very very sorry for Rodney Sear, but I don't blame Rodney Sear the headline he presented that trickled down or passed down to other people, because the issue of environmental science, the issue of climate change, it is a foreign subject matter to many Liberians. Even I who work in the field here today, there are CEO, there are top government officials,
Excuse me.
top regulators from different states that I interact with. They still struggle to understand what are some of the nomenclature of how climate change works. So when I listen to other talk show hosts trying to manipulate the information about the president visit to Dubai, where the Blue Carbon institution has allocated $50 billion to assist countries in Africa that will be able to utilize their forests in preventing what is considered to be the greenhouse gas exhaust position as it relates to protecting the climate. The institution only signed an MOU with the Liberian government, but they have allocated $50 billion that will assist other countries that will participate. But people don't understand because of the limitation of the ability to read beyond what other people tell them, and that becomes a challenge. So today, Liberia in the future will be benefiting from her biodiversity, where this international institution will come and conduct an assessment to determine what needs to be done as far as the role that Liberia can play, will play in protecting the environment. I will stop there because of my meaning, but there are more things to discuss on that area. So, since Robert, I know Ashford is not here, so I'll give that back to you.
Thank you. So we'll pass it to you, Pastor Datus. What's your take?
Right. So, since Mr. Dapper wants to play the speculation game, let us speculate. Even though the CIA was very secretive, but publicly invited our president to a meeting. Whilst at the same time, Raymond said, well, it is the incursion or the invasion of China on the continent. Well, Remy, could it also be possible that they invited him to discuss the money laundering, the $100 million of drug infestation that came to the country first that was busted by them? Is it also possible that they invited him for the $40 million worth of cocaine that came after the fact of busting $100 million? Is it also possible, Mr. Dapo, when I listened to your justice minister, he said to the Senate when he was specifically asked what happened to the resolution regarding the arms, and he said that issue was in the hands of the international community. Mr. Dapo, the Liberian people aren't unaware that Liberia has become drug infested by an administration that has no control of our porous borders, the proliferation of arms throughout the country, unresolved murders and killings in the country. For you to sit here and say, oh, they called because of China. Did you listen to the State Department's report or the one that was published on VOA? Did you read those reports to understand how this government has been, quite frankly, indicted by the American government? Have you questioned yourself the fact that Liberia poses a serious challenge to regional stability by virtue of the proliferation of militancy through the CDC and the militancy hat that they're wearing, the violence throughout the country and the unresolved murders? Have you ever thought that it's possible that they could have called him to discuss those things because Liberia is still under construction of its peace? There are 4 pillars of the United Nations, Mr. Gray: peace and stability, human rights, rule of law, and development. Can you confidently tell the Liberian people that they are secure in their own country after having fought civil war for a long time? And possibly your president could have been invited for that conversation? But you're making things up, though. China is in the continent, so they called him. I turn it back to you, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you. Back to you, Ashford.
And thanks for stepping in. Thanks for the swift stepping in. I had a little glitch yet with my sister, but thank goodness we're back. James Fisk.
Yeah. And I would just join Reverend Addy. Okay. So there should be some order in terms of how government functions. Okay. And there seem not to be any in the current administration. So George Weah leaves the country, and the legislature is now formally acknowledged, and I stand to be corrected. So he leaves the country, he goes for an unspecified period of time during which everything is mute. Well, we can say national security, but national security means a lot of things. Okay. And then he returns. Okay. And a journalist asked him a simple question. So, Mr. President, can you shed light on what this trip was all about? And his arrogant response was, you asking me the whole president? Of course. How you became president? You were elected by the people. You were elected by the people. You owe them explanation all the time. So if you abrogated to yourself to say, well, you have become this master or demigod and answer to no one but yourself, or perhaps maybe people above you, as in the case of the Americans and stuff like that, then it becomes a serious but tragic narrative for Liberia, a country that is supposed to be nurturing the principles of democracy. And the most salient principle of democracy that any leader should be trying to push as an agenda is accountability, holding yourself accountable to those people. Is it just election and people come and ask for mandate? Okay. And let's talk about climate change. You talk about going to buy and there's $50 billion for maintaining your biodiversity and the rest of it. What a shame. Okay. So now the international community tell, oh, well, don't touch the forest. Oh, so as a result, we are just robots. So we will not touch the forest. Meanwhile, you got how many millions of people unemployed in Liberia? What's wrong with opening factories? What, 1847 stopping George Weah from opening factories in Liberia to create jobs? How is that going to affect biodiversity? It's not. It's going to create jobs. He talked about wanting to improve the strength of the Liberian currency. How does he think it's going to work? How many billions of dollars is he going to take? If it's $50 billion, what is the portion of that pie Liberia is going to get versus what Liberia can project from its own population if there was an investment in the people, in our soil, in our rain, in our natural rainforest, so we can do both. But because leadership should be for people who are extremely ambitious, these guys are not ambitious, and that's a sad thing for Liberia, I would say.
Letty Brooks Roberts.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Garley. Just to add to my fellow panelists, I just want to bring to Randy's attention and to the listening audience that all these drugs and guns that were infiltrating into our country is a national security issue. And a country such as Liberia that has such poor security, this is why we the US called our president, because there's so many terrorist organizations out there. And as you also know, our passports were compromised. So we don't know who has our passports. We don't know who's going back and forth into the country with our passports. And as has been evident, that they're laundering money. So all of these are issues for which our country, our president was summoned. And to your point, that has not happened since 1847. Thank you.
Well, I would just allow J. Randy to come back. Randy, the president said his trip was very successful, and he felt good coming out of the trips, both Dubai and, of course, the United States. Come in.
Yes, it
I'll
is
give
very
you 1
sad.
minute, and then if
Yeah,
you guys don't have anything to go to the next segment, go ahead.
it is very sad and a tragedy tonight, and that is why it is very important to always take a historical approach when you discussing society or social, economic, and political, including security aspect. I'm very disappointed in Remy Ade, who said he worked at the United Nations, that he could not even understand the role that Liberia plays with the United States and what it means to have security at risk, to what it means to be concerned about China trying to take over Africa. He first started by saying Remy, Remy. So everything he said about Remy, why he was making up with the assumption, if I were Remy, I don't make assumption because you said Remy, Remy. So when that assumption you're talking about, I did not make any assumption. My name is Randy. What I did say to you, I'm part of the Department of Homeland Security in the country. There are classified information that is shared that we are not privileged to give out here. Liberia in the world, and I think Sis Robert Kudin has said it better, the infiltration of arms coming to the country, it depends on the economy of the country. This is a new time, a new era. Things are happening. When things are happening, the Americans will try to look for its allies. Recently, Putin was considered to be a war criminal. The Chinese, the second superpower power, went down there, and it's like a challenge. So, what do you think the U.S. is going to do? Rally her ally in Africa? They
30
did
seconds.
they did it in World War II. They did it during the Cold War, and they want to do it now. We seen the new ambassador to Liberia. The outgoing ambassador is a Republican, and to get a job done, you need to have people who understand you. And with Mr. We are visiting the U.S. is strengthening the relationship security-wise to make sure that we protect our borders. Quickly here, Dr. Fritz, you talk about climate change. The issue of climate change, and that's why I'm very disappointed, Reverend Ade again. He should be the one, be the champion of climate change, because the United Nations is the one who started the climate change. But Reverend Ade, or Dr. Fix, the climate change is a universal risk to the earth. It has nothing to do with a job, but to protect the environment that will create more job opportunities. And there's nothing illegal about opposition not creating jobs. Mr. Cummings is out there, Mr. Walker is out there, because people did not give them political decision. Up to now, they're sitting down and don't want to provide an economic decision for the people. And that's a shame.
The Reverend, hold on a minute. The Reverend is that why don't you think the criticism is valid? He wants you to remain on the pulpit and leave politics alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You think that you work at the United Nations, but you
don't even know what climate change is.
Come in, Mr. Ade.
You know, what is quite interesting, there's a word called bloviating. And that's what my brother just did here for a minute. Because one minute he claims that we don't know this classified information, but at the same time, he's telling us he works within the government and he has classified information. So what is the classified information that he's telling us? The visit had to do with America and China, Liberia and China having a meeting because of the Chinese influence on the continent. Perhaps Mr. Dapo isn't aware that your police and army was trained by these United States of America. So that traditional relationship has never changed. Whether it's George Weah as president or somebody else comes as president, Mr. Weah wouldn't need to be invited. He wouldn't have needed to be invited to the CIA publicly to have a discussion that will come back. Now the Liberian people don't know what he's been in these United States discussing with our traditional allies, such as the United States. May I also remind you that your airport was built by them. The current piece that you have today was financed by them. So, you know, that international relations that you seem to have an inside scoop about, may I remind you that the relationship between us and these United States will not change. It is solid, it is strong, and George Weah doesn't have to be invited to the CIA headquarters for them to tell him, you know, you are our ally, right? Don't mess up. No, they train your army. They're managing your army right now. They're financing your police. All right. They're subsidizing your country's budget. They don't need to invite him here to tell him, stick with us. Don't be influenced by China. If we must speculate again, Mr. Dapo, you should be very concerned about the drug infestation to the tune of $140 million, the sales of our passports to foreign individuals, the infiltration of weapons in the country. Your president has to address that issue. Thank you.
Mr. Garley, may I add something? Okay, go ahead. Who wanted to go?
Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Reverend Ade, I would say I'm not responsible for some intellectual disability when it comes to understanding me. You did something.
No.
You just.
It's okay. It's okay. He has a limited choice of words. It's okay. Go ahead.
Intellectual disability is a word that is supposed to be used. I mean, it's in the dictionary. It quantifies what something, how you see something and describe it. It's not an insult. I'm not insulting you. So I'm just using it in a phrase that I'm being constantly misunderstood. All right. Firstly, Reverend Ade mentioned earlier that, I said China is taking over the world. No, I said China is spreading her power across Africa. Now he coming back and also say again, the U.S. is not just the ally. I mean, it's not just calling George Weah for this and that and assumption. No, I'm not assuming things here. What I'm saying, I want for Mr. Ade to understand from me. I mean, Reverend Ade to understand from me that I do have experience working with the Department of Homeland Security. He also mentioned about classified information. I did say that my relationship with the Department of Homeland Security gave me privilege to see classified information that I am not privileged to discuss with my fellow librarian out here. You can go and play it back again. I'm very consistent in what I say, Mr. Ade. All right, I'm very consistent in what I
But
say. You can go back.
may I
Oh,
interject,
just
Mr.
oh, yeah, go ahead. I will in flight. You want me to wait and you come in
No,
so I
go
can
ahead,
wait? Okay.
Land.
So
I
what I
want you,
would
I want
say,
you to, I want you to wait, Randy. She will
okay,
come in, James will come in, then you can come, then we can go to the
okay,
next segment.
Yeah, but
all right.
as Pastor Addis said, Liberia and America, we are already allies. So why would they need to bring him here to say,
Well, I was
we're
about to
allies?
explain that, but Ashford keep interrupting me. So all I got to do is to get pause, and when everybody end, I will start from right there, because I was
Yeah,
about to address all of that.
How am
But
I
we
keep interrupting you? I give you 2
because
minutes.
I was in flight, and since Bravo gave me the opportunity to respond, because I was still responding to Reverend Adi, coming back to what
Okay,
you
okay,
know Robert
okay.
just said, and I was
Follow
about to finish
Mrs.
that.
Follow Mrs. Roberts and Mr. Face. You can come in and
Okay,
conclude. Okay, thank you. Go ahead,
okay,
Mrs.
all
Roberts.
right.
yeah, what do people say? Um, if it quacks like a duck, it looks like a duck, it is a duck. There's something more. Yes, you may have access to classified information, and so do most of us who are internationally
Mrs. Roberts, can
read.
you please, Mr. Roberts, can you please just hold that thought? We have the breaking news coming in here. The chief of staff told the former vice president, Mr. Jacob Akodi, his home was attacked and firebombed tonight. We still have not gotten the word whether anybody was injured, and the children saw the home in flame, and they managed to leave the house. We are still investigating. We're still looking, listening for the hearing what happened next. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say I'm sorry to hear such terrible news in the midst of us talking about election violence and all these kinds of stuff. But based on international um relations, Liberia and America we are the child. So we've had presidents prior and going back to 1847, but we haven't had them come here say, "Oh, I want to do that." America may have interest in the sub-Saharan Africa. However, they would go there, as you know that the CIA boss did go to Liberia. So why did he need to come here? There's more to it. It's just common sense, and you can keep your covert information that you have, but we the streets are talking, and we can deduce from prior information and international relations that there's more to this story than meets the eye.
Well, Mr. Jennifer, you can come in there, Randy. Could it be that America wants to further strengthen the relationship with Liberia, or they're trying to make their presence well felt in terms of some of the interests they have over there in Liberia and subsequently Africa, like the Mega Tower or the newly constructed NSA building? We don't know the facts yet, but they're saying they're classified information. Jen Fisk.
Yeah, before I address the question with respect to the travel of the president as a rejoiner to what Mr. Dapo said, I just want to get back to when he used the word intellectual. He's not responsible for the intellectual disability of the Reverend. In fact, the word intellectual disability is a something called DSM-5 criteria for diagnosing someone with significant disability.
Wow.
And yes, okay. Check it out. It's called DSM Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. That's the basis upon which people receive a number of diagnoses. And intellectual disability is one of them. And it will fall under the categories of people who have genetic malfunction, trisomies, and the rest of it. So when you said that out of ignorance, you were actually saying something that has nothing to do with the ability of the Reverend to express himself, because someone who has an intellectual disability, who has been diagnosed based on a DSM-5 criteria, would appear nothing like the Reverend. So just to put that point across, then let's address the main issue. The biggest national security concern that I'm sure the United States is aware of and brings about all of these vices that we are talking about is poverty. Okay, you don't have to look very far to have your evidence. Look at what's happening in Somalia. Okay, there's extreme poverty all over that place, and as a result, ships passing alongside the Somalian coast are in danger of being attacked by pirates. And the reason for that is because of poverty. So all of these things come together. Okay. If you have a government that is not ambitious enough to think about how to create, everybody gave we a job when they voted for him. They gave him a job. All the representatives got job when the people voted for them. What y'all give the people in return? Empty promises, and y'all keep going after the opposition. Y'all want to outsource your responsibility to the opposition. You guys may as well step aside. Instead of outsourcing, it's like wanting to eat your cake and have it. Step aside, let the opposition take over and see whether they got something better to offer. Okay, but you can't say you are leading and yet still continue to look all in the air, in the sky to scapegoat responsibilities that you should have. How much does it take to build a modern factory and then engage Liberian farmers so that instead of getting rice from China and India, you get rice made and produced right in Liberia? That's not rocket science. Or you'll need another $50 billion from Dubai to do that one too for your own people. Or the CIA need to call George Weah and tell you, say, you can do better for your own people. So, I mean, it's dismal performance. And don't go looking for opposition to scapegoat. No, you have the gavel right now. Do what you need to do in the interest of the people. That was the essence of an election.
And to that point, Mr. Garley.
Hold on, Mrs. Roberts. I think it will be fair to bring Mr. Dapo in. Mr. Dapo?
I thought it was Reverend Ade.
Okay, Reverend Ade. Reverend Ade. Reverend Dapo claimed that you are intellectually disabled. How do you respond?
Well, I certainly will not dignify that phrase with a response. I'll focus on the substance of the issue.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Fix has provided better education for him. And I trust that he will, take this as a new experience, using words that do not describe people outside of the substance of the issue.
Fair enough.
Can be a bit challenging. So, but that being said, we'll maintain our focus, looking for a government, our president, to do the right thing, such as improving the well-being of the Liberian people. And if Mr. Dapo cannot defend that under substance and merits, then it becomes challenging for the choice of, poor words. Having said that, Liberians deserve better. Our president traveled. We need to know why he traveled. Taxpayers, we Liberians are paying for that trip, and it's only fair that he tells us what he's doing with our tax dollars when he travels and not placate the reality that Liberians need to know. If you're going to fly out and you can give us some good reasons or bring back some results, while civil servants haven't gotten paid, why students are still languishing from poor education, poor health care, hunger, poverty. Liberia is below the international poverty line of $1.95. So for someone to say, oh, no, you don't understand international relations, I have classified information. May I remind Mr. Dapo that the people who are watching, they are not, they are well-rounded individuals who are paying attention. So you can come here and bloviate and tell people you have classified information, but at the same time, you're speculating. So having said that, Ashford, I'll rest here for now.
Randy Dapo, did you misspeak by calling the Reverend or telling him that he's intellectually disabled? Did you misspeak? Do you have anything to say to him?
No, I did not misspeak. I think if Dr. Fritz thinks that his subject matter expertise has total control over intellectual disability.
This is what Dr. Fritz does every day.
That's what I'm telling you now. That's what I'm telling you. Let me roll. Let me roll. Let me roll. I just said,
Ashford, please allow him to roll.
Ashford, listen to me. I just said, if Dr. Fritz thinks that his subject matter expertise area is limited to the intellectual disability, then he mistakenly wrong. All right. When I spoke about intellectual disability, I was looking at the IQ, whether of that, I mean, Reverend Ade, whether
The
it's between,
IQ?
yes, whether the IQ of understanding what I was saying, at what rate from his intellectual disability to comprehend what I was saying, because the intellectual disability can be also measured against your intellectual quotient as well. It was from that content and context I was speaking. I'm not speaking in his era subject matter trying to classify an individual. I was looking at a comprehensive ability to understand because he kept mistaking. And before he just left off again, he said, I don't know where you privileged to classify information. When I said my relationship with the Department of Homeland Security gave me the opportunity to have published document that has nothing to do with Liberia, but just to tell you the position that I have here. So, Dr. Fix, I understand that the words are entrenched in your terminology, but there is no limitation to using it from my perspective when I try to look at it from a comprehensive standpoint. With that being said, I just want to come back here. It is sad to hear Reverend Ade talking about Liberia has a relationship in the past with America, the RIA, the Omega Tower. Why are you going there when you don't want to talk about historical events? When I start to describe things by looking at things historically, you want to say no to that. And then when I come out and say, Mr. Weir, based on the relationship of Liberia in the past and escape the RIA and the Omega Tower, then you want to use that. You see, you're speaking about assumption, but you are just cherry picking in things that you say. And the cherry picking you're doing, it is not being fair to the Liberian people because there's no way we can discuss the present of Liberia. We're all looking at the past. We have to look at the past in order to discuss the present and to predict the future. If we don't do those things, it's wrong. And to Sis Bravo, I understand that Liberia has a relationship with the United States. When the CIA director visited Liberia, there's no journalist, and those who overcome with the breaking news never came out to even mention about the content or the discussion that were held because, again, it was classified. Now, visiting the country called Liberia by the director of the CIA, it is just an in-person visit. But as far as intelligence and the ability to showcase what they believe the president needs to know, he has to be invited. It's coming on the home turf, the territory, to give him a full-blown opportunity to see what is going on. Like I said, Kenneth Kaunda visited the United States, the CIA headquarters. The Brazilian president that I just left also visited the CIA headquarters. The CIA briefed the president of the United States on a daily basis, except for the weekend, unless it's something extraordinary. So when it comes to security matter, it has to be done at a very convenient time with a specified place. Now, Dr. Fritz talked about job. It said the government are only create job. What about these guys? They come out to the Liberian people to vote for them. It said law that prevent the Liberian people from not getting job from them.
Mr. Dapo, come on now.
That is very unfair. That is very unfair. You got a former Coca-Cola executive, not even an ice cream shop. Donald Trump was elected in the country while running a company. You got Jetty in a country that is trying to help the government create job opportunities. And then you want to sit here and say, oh, everything is up to the government. That is why these guys are the way they are. Their philosophy is, if you don't vote for us, I will not give you a job. But there are ordinary Liberians who are doing extremely well. They are running their own businesses in the country and providing jobs. But these guys sit down for 7 years and they have done nothing for the people of Liberia. And lastly, I think, Dr. Fritz, you keep saying the $50 billion. That $50 billion, it was allocated by the royals in Dubai through the Blue Carbon company. Initiative, thank you. That initiative is not only limited to Liberia. It is a $50 billion that has been put forward to protect the forest in Africa because Africa is not industrialized to that extent. Let me just show you a quick example here. As for talking about teaching, let me show you guys a quick example here, all right? So, Sen Reverend,
I mean, you know, you can dominate it.
I know you monopolize.
We are here to inform and educate. This is the earth here. This is the earth here. When Europe produced,
Where's the earth?
Look at here a chance.
this is the whole earth. This is the globe.
Look
This is the globe. This is the globe. When Europe produced her pollution, as the earth rotates, it goes to Africa. The forests capture those things. And then when South America and North America produce, it comes to Europe. China will also produce, it will come to America. So Africa has been seen as the streamlines that capture this emission. So the only role Africa can play right now is to maintain their forests and increase reforestation and not deforestation. So there are carbon or trade, cap and trade that is taking place. In order for Liberia to be qualified, there must be a head count of all the forests across every county. The more forests you got, the more money you will be giving. And that is why Blue Carbon is coming in to provide that assessment to our country. And that, like I said, I'm so ashamed that Reverend Ade, who worked at the United Nations, don't understand this thing. He should be lecturing us here.
Thank you. We'll leave it there.
Let's look in here. So I will leave it right there.
Okay. Well, folks.
Can I provide some?
So I mean, Ashford, I think it's only fair.
We have to go to the next segment. Listen. We have to go to the next segment, but I will just give you 30 seconds.
I need to provide some education.
Well, then I will go back to the history part, because when Dr. Fritz talked about we don't need to go back to the history, he said it, and you close on, you move on to the next chapter. So if you bringing that back, then we'll have to go back to that time, because I got
Hold on, Rennie. I think it's only fair that if I give them 30 seconds, I will have you to close out with a 30-second Rennie.
Thank you. You've been fair. If you're running for any office, you got my vote. I'll start campaigning for you right now.
So Mr. Randy Dapo erroneously talked about IQ being a standard to gauge.
That's not what I said.
No, you talked about the Reverend's IQ. You mentioned that.
No, that's not what I said.
Did he?
I'll respond to that. Go ahead.
Yes, you said the reason why you were able to talk about the Reverend being intellectually disabled is because you were able to size up his IQ. I'm not quoting you directly right now, but you did mention his IQ. So and the DSM-5 criteria does not include IQ as a basis for diagnosing intellectual disability. However, when you talk about someone who's intellectually disabled and you want to talk about it within the context of an IQ, you need to understand that someone who is of average intelligence has an IQ of between 85 to 114. And someone who has borderline mental disability, that's 70 to 84. Okay, so that's very low. Okay, so when you mention that someone has an intellectual disability, you are trying to, as far as IQ is concerned, when you mention IQ, you are saying that the person has an IQ that is below 80. Okay, and you've not done any quantification to make that statement. So that is, you continue to go down the path of error, and I'm trying to get you away from it. That is one. Two, getting back to this whole thing about jobs and this carbon emission and the rest of it. How many jobs did George Weah create before he became president? How many enterprises did he have before he became president? How many jobs? Okay, because the reason why George Weah could not create jobs is because at the time the responsibility to create jobs was within the purview of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. That is why the Liberian people became very despondent when they didn't see that she was creating the kind of jobs that her IMF credentials made people give the impression of. Okay,
30 seconds.
Then they voted for Weah. So right now, the onus to create massive jobs for Liberians is on Weah until he leaves from there. Whoever comes there next has that responsibility. Government is always, by default, the forerunner. The forerunner for development in any country. Every other thing is secondary. So stop this mentality of outsourcing the responsibility of government. That's not the role of other people. Thank you.
Mr. Garley, who's next?
let me bring in Mr. Addy,
Okay.
and then you can come in. Then we'll close out with Rennie and move to the next segment. Reverend
You
Addy.
know, Dr. Fix, Dr. Fix, I really truly want to applaud you tonight that you would take your time to provide such an enlightenment. I salute you with great humility. I wouldn't have done so. We have a listening audience that is quite aware that, my friend and brother Dapo has selected poorly a choice of words that do not reflect the dignity of this platform. But I certainly will not go in the gutter with him, but discuss the issues. And the issue is around good governance, corruption, peace and security of the nation state under an administration that we're providing constructive criticism about. And oftentimes, this is the choice of some, not all seditions, when they cannot debate the substance of the issue. They resort to the poor choices of words. But once again, Mr. Dapo, I'll encourage you that we will focus on the issue because this platform refrains from, you know, misappropriating words or tending to degrade people in the manner you've chosen. Again,
Diagnosis.
that's not your field of study, and I certainly want to say thank you, Dr. Fix, for the time you took to help Mr. Dapo out. I certainly hope you receive that education with humility. Thank you.
Let's see Brooks Roberts, then Dapper will close out, and then we can move to the next segment.
Yeah, I forgot what I wanted to say, but I just want to read a few comments here. This the audience is saying we are 4 against 1. Randy, normally we have a conversation on the issue, so Randy is here to add his voice. We are not ganging up on him. We are just having a conversation. So just want you guys to know that.
Thank you. Mr. Dappo, take us home.
Yes.
Yes, that would be 1.5 minutes, please.
If Dr. Fix believes that his area of expertise is the only science that faded all, he's absolutely wrong. This conversation was specifically pinned at Reverend Ade's ability to comprehend. And the IQ is a determining factor that will contribute to that. I'm not going into his area. I'm only specifically looking at Dr. Ade's ability to comprehend and not keep repeating his mistake. So he can talk about all the psychologists, psychiatrists. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at his ability to understand. Why am I bringing this up today? And I know what you said in the past, because in the past we had a very smooth conversation where Pastor Ade have been very attentive, paying attention. But when you try to twist my words, then it is time for me to remind him that there are measurements that we have.
We don't have ordinary
proportionality is a slide that you measure. You measure on a slide
I
rule.
like the entertainment though.
It's the fight. It's not entertainment. It's the fight. It's the fight. It's the fight. So I will just leave it as that. But what I will say here is it is important for people to start speculating because speculation leads to nothing. Opinion with all facts is not granted or is not acceptable universally. What I continue to say here is one, Liberia has a very good relationship with the United States, but the president being invited by the CIA, it further boosts our relationship because it's the matter of trust. Public service is about building public trust is about building public service or the other way around. We have had so many presidents in the country, but I think the CIA director visit to Liberia, what he saw with the assistant in rebuilding the NSA, I think it gave Mr. Weir an opportunity to come to the United States to fully show him exactly what America is faced with. You spoke about challenge on the onset, during the onset of the show, about challenges, what America is faced with security-wise, what America is faced with when it comes to food and security as far as climate change goes. Biden had that summit and the president was invited by. I'm not going to say here that the president was not giving other challenges in the area. There are other things that the president was told that you need to improve here, looking at SWOT. But if we wouldn't dwell on the negative things and don't open our mind universally to say, you know what, there are some positive we want to take away from there, then we have an intellectual IQ problem here because our intellectual should be able to discuss the thing from every angle.
Thank you so much.
I'll turn it back to you.
Well, folks, if you just joining us, we'd like to say hello and welcome to Ashford Got Live on Brace Radio Africa. This program comes on Mondays, Tuesdays, and of course Fridays from 8 beginning at 8 p.m. So you might want to please tell friends, relatives, and loved ones. If you have a business out there and you want us to create awareness for your business, all you have to do, please drop us a note in our inbox, and of course somebody from the marketing department will respond to you. We're also in the media consultancy business. You want to open up a radio or TV station back home, we can help you do that. Just feel free to contact us as well. This is what we do, and this is our forte. Having said that, folks, let us move to our next segment that has to do with the former CEO of Spoon Network is back in the news. It seems like this brother can't. I mean, he's so passionate about the microphone, and he does not want to stay away. We just saw the emergence of his former colleagues on the platform. They have the closing argument, and Stanton Waterspoon came out swinging yesterday. Let us take a listen to what he had to say, and then we can discuss it.
CDC is still working. They will do everything to destroy and take Jose Yimabaka from the race. You know what CDC said? CDC said we get $5 million on the table. Whosoever will remove Jose Yimabaka on the race, they can have it. They will do everything to take Jose Yimabaka off the race. So Jose Yimabaka got to be strong. He got to be vigilant. He got to be a bulldozer.
He got to be
He got to call his running mate. But I will say this to you. When Samuel Twe, I get a text message, I get an email, offered to give $50,000 to Spoon Network. He called me. He said, "Oh man, we get it 50,000." I said, "For what?" My friends then that left, you can ask them, they know. I said, "I don't want it." He said, "Man, you know you got to help the government." My man, they think that the government station, that your own son of boy, you know he from the southeast, that your this, that your that. You know how I can call Samuel Twe? Yeah. We started speaking crew. I said, "Oh man, no." No, seriously, this is very important. That's why you see some people decide not to talk about the government, to say the truth. Liberians need to hear this. Leo, I said no. I couldn't sleep. Samuel Twe text me. He sent me text. He sent me Twe the other day. You know, I got to go to Ivory Coast, the money here, blah, 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 blah. I said no. I called Ben Sembi. I called Timothy Josh. I called Dr. Peabody. And I called Kev Hassan. We're on the conference. I said, Samuel Twe, I want to offer money. I said, I don't want it though. Fagon, don't let Fagon know. I said, though was with us at the time. You know that Richardson Pa, that's a sin.
Teacher Pepe.
You know, she wasn't part of the guru.
They were one of that Teacher Pepe.
The volume.
ASHFORD, your volume is very low. I don't know from my end here, and I think from Sis Robert end. I don't know about Dr. Fraser and Reverend Adi.
It's also low at my end as well.
Yeah.
I think we got the gist of what Stanton was trying to say. Yeah. That's fine. Letty?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
I think we lost ASHFORD.
That's what he gave for playing the people tape.
And now we lost Letty.
Yeah. But after hearing that, Pastor Adi, what do you have to say to that?
Well,
The
I'm certainly
that we
looking
heard.
I'm certainly looking to hear a response from the government about this allegation in an attempt to, potentially bribe a media institution. So for now, I'll take it on the surface. This is the allegation that is being made. against the finance minister, and I'm looking forward to a credible interview from him debunking this reality. But the longer it stays in the media, not addressed, even though I've seen snippets that he stated, and I'm not sure about this, but I've read it on the internet, that if in fact he said, how can a convicted felon who sold certificates for 15,000 reject 50,000? So I'm certainly looking forward to the finance minister speaking on this matter. Silence reinforces the notion that it's true. If it is true, it's quite embarrassing. It is just another exposure of corruption in the system.
Yeah. Thank you. Dr. Fitz?
I mean, politics is the art of the possible, and these guys are operating within a political landscape in which there's no accountability. Okay, so when you add all these things up, then of course, and then you have the minister indirectly telling you, yes, I did offer him money. Okay, but the thing is, I mean, a lot of us have been somebody from within the hierarchy of CDC reached out to me before because I'm very critical of the CDC. I didn't need to go and call a conference to make a decision that I did not want to associate with that person. I did not respond. I did not answer. Okay, so
Right.
you know when your integrity is put to test, how you deal with the situation matters. Okay, so why would you want to consider something like that? Okay, the fact that you decided to call a meeting says that you are giving it a second thought. Okay, now that's a crack in your defense right there. Okay, you need to be resolute about things you want to do and things you want to say. Okay, that's one of the reasons why, I mean, for those who, love Boykai, I mean, I respect the decision. But if you are in a system and the system is not working well for you, okay, step away, walk away. Don't be there and then later on come up with all kinds of excuses to explain why you continue to remain in the system that was not working in the interest of other people, when in fact you are one of those who had the mandate to do well for people. Okay, so there are several things we are looking at. Number one, the system is in a mess. Number two, these guys are trying to take advantage of a system that's in a mess. And to an extent that even the finance minister can tell you, say, well, yeah, I get the man money. Okay, I offer the man money. Okay, and then Mr. Spoon comes up on television, okay, and says, I call my people together. Why? Why would you call your people together when your integrity was put to test? Now, because of that crack, the Bible says when you create crack, stuff will pass through that crack, right? So now there was a crack in his armor, okay, by allowing himself to say he needed to call a meeting when his integrity, they reached out to him as an individual. He was supposed to respond as an individual and said, no, I will be the gatekeeper for my institution that I represent. Once he did not do that and decided that he needed everybody, then of course, I mean, he was already entertaining the idea of colluding with corruption. Now, on what ground do you stand now to then go back to now criticize the same thing that you were toying with the idea of possibly accepting? You just needed to get some kind of nudge from your crew. That's why he decided to call everybody else to have that discussion. I mean, I'm not in his head, but the idea that he decided that this is how he wanted to approach the situation tells me there's more to the story that he is willing to let on, and let him be honest, a little more honest.
From what I listened to, sorry, Miss Dr. Fitz, he also said that they were doing an invoice, but then the finance minister wanted him not to do an invoice. They wanted to just give him cash. So it begs a judgment issue. If he's doing an invoice, does it make it any better?
Exactly.
Mr. Randy, what do you say?
Well, before I begin my part, I would like to reconfirm what I'm understanding from Dr. Fresh. Did you say the finance minister admitted to giving money to the
Well,
guys?
when the finance minister, according to Reverend Adi, and I think I read something to that effect about um, somebody who was
Who
involved
took
in
yes?
15,000,
Who gave 15,000 for
15,000
for
stuff, whatever is not
nurses?
credible to make us to refuse or to make a statement like that. That is not a clear denial.
Thank you.
Okay,
So,
clear denial. So
so
then it still leaves room for the possibility that he actually did offer that money. That was, you have to agree with me, that was not a clear-cut denial. He did not categorically come out and say, no, I did not offer any money.
but you see, Dr. Fresh, as engineer, we build things to make you comfortable.
Mhm.
We don't just look at a piece of document and interpret it as something that is reliable, that can be commercialized. It could be anybody who wrote that information. So if you use that information as a way to discuss the issue here, I'm sorry to say that you have been misinformed, because there's
Okay,
no
Randy,
Sid
just
Robert,
to
let me
a
finish.
point, rather than attack him, just address the
No,
issue that you heard
Yeah, that's
Sid
fine.
Robert.
because of time.
No, but
That's
since
fine.
Robert, let's be
Okay, go
honest
ahead.
here. Let's be honest here. If the thing is writing, let us say it's writing.
Mhm.
All right. You were here when Dr. Fresh attempted to correct me on his subject matter expertise, and I defended myself that I was not in his area, but only looking at the applicability of what I thought that was missing in Reverend understanding my point. So I'm asking you this
Okay,
specific question here because Reverend said he saw a screenshot. There's
so
no
did I.
evidence to that. Mr. Toy has not admitted to that. We had no reason to say he did that. And as engineer who is into politics, I don't accept the kind of thing. No. So I just try to confirm that because I want to make sure that my intelligence will not fall short to becoming intellectual disability as far as my listening and comprehension skill goes. That's why I'm asking the question. And I'm glad that he mentioned that what Reverend Ade said from the get-go is what he was basing on. And I'm saying that that is a misinformation and disinformation. With
To
that
a
being
point,
said,
to a point, to a point,
uh-huh.
to a point. So even if he didn't, let's say he didn't write that, but this is in the national news, and as a finance minister of a country, he doesn't debunk it,
He doesn't
Well,
refute it.
well, first of all, why is it doing?
refute it. Yes.
Why is it doing in the national news? That tells me that there is poor editing at every news agency. Because before you put anything out there as an institution, you got to put your integrity on the line. So if he knows that it's
Okay.
not true, do we blame the institution for that? I can give you information right now. Right now, if Stanton come to you and issue a certificate, you say, oh, let me go verify this first. Let me go and verify this. Just to say, because you have to defend yourself. So with that being said, let me say this here. Stanton Witherspoon is politically depressed. Yes, he's politically depressed. A guy who has been indicted by one of the highest investigating institutions in America. In my opinion, any platform that gave him the opportunity to come and say anything, that platform doesn't even have integrity. This is a guy who tried to undermine the healthcare system. Dr. Frisk, I believe he's a psychologist. And I believe he went through the rank and file of obtaining his doctorate degree by even defending his thesis. So for somebody to try to take a shortcut and today he's on an indictment, do you really believe what he said the other day makes sense from an integrity standpoint, from an intellectual standpoint, from an ethical standpoint? This is a man who felt that there is a shortcut to take to get things done. I don't see no relevance in that man unless some of us here don't believe in the standard that have been set in this country here, that we must all work hard to achieving things. With that being said, when he spoke about receiving $50,000, where is the proof? This is where I would agree with Reverend Adi. And I will go further beyond that. I would like to see proof. I would like to see proof. I can come here and make accusation or allegation against anything, but I would like to see proof as to what he's talking about. Is he getting mad and angry because the time he enjoyed the pleasure of the government opposition is now been taken away from him, and those guys are now shining and he getting better? Now let's look at the Ministry of Finance. You and I can leave from here, and many librarians will say, when you go to the library, I can't see the finance minister, I can't see the other minister here. The Ministry of Finance is structured. There is no time that the minister will go and be in the presence of some type of employee to talk about invoice. It has to go through a structure. So if you listen to Garley Stanton, who is not organized, and telling you that, oh, my person went to the finance minister and I was talking, that is insanity at the highest level. It just goes to tell you that this guy, Stanton, the lies he's telling here, he's even making the case better for the FBI, that he's not going to be a very good defendant of what he has been accused of, because
Can I come in? Can I come in? Can I come in?
Yeah, but I mean, man.
I mean, you
Let
can't.
him land. Go ahead.
You talk
30 seconds.
Okay,
Okay,
you
Randy,
can
30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. 30
Finish
seconds.
finish your thought.
I will take that. So what I'm saying here, from the construction of how he explained things and looking at the structure of how the ministry works, is a lie. All right. From the story he told about how the money left from one place, he was on the phone with the finance minister, and then he jumped and went to the owner and saying, prepare the voucher, and then Ben Senvi saying, I'm sending somebody to go get the money. Those are very fabric information that got too many holes in it that deviate. It makes no sense. Lastly, the Ministry of Finance is a layer of steps before you get to see the minister. So when he come up with that story, there are more questions than answer. I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Randy.
Can I come in to refute?
Yes. Go ahead, Dr. Fitz.
Can I come in to refute Randy?
Yes, you can.
Okay, fine. So,
somebody needs to mute yourself. We're getting a feedback.
Someone has a radio on.
Everybody can just mute themselves. Mute yourself. If you mute yourself, then okay, there you go.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So Randy just created the first philosophical fallacy. It's called ad nominem. Okay. That is when you be like, oh, the information that this person should not be regarded as credible because of some kind of personality trait. Okay. So don't invite Mr. Stanton to the program because Mr. Stanton is linked to an allegation that is yet to be substantiated in the court of law. Okay, that's a philosophical fallacy. It means your argument is extremely weak. Okay, now let's proceed. The beauty of a true democracy, especially the legal system of a true democracy, is that you are innocent until you are proved to be guilty. And that standard has not been established with Stanton. Now, on what basis, in the absence of that, do you now come back and say any platform that decides to allow Mr. Stanton to refute the allegation, that platform lacks integrity? Mind you now, you are speaking from the angle of someone who understands media, right? So you would note that when it comes to press, when it comes to news, it's about hearing both sides of the story. Then you have a balanced news. Other than that, you are propagating propaganda, and we shouldn't be doing that on this platform. That's what I would say. That's my response to you.
Okay, so let me come back there. I'm looking at integrity.
No.
No, Ade, you are not the MC here. You are not the MC here. The only person that can stop me is Miss Rabo. You are not. You are not the moderator. You are not. I'm coming back.
You are muted, Miss Roberts. Ms. Roberts, you are muted.
Thank you.
So
I'm sorry about that.
Because
what we normally do here is go take turns. So after you have spoken, Dr. Fitz speaks, then because someone else, sometimes your train of thought.
Dr. Fitz came after what I said, so he created
right. But that's our time.
Okay.
So now we do the roundabout. Right. He's gonna go and then come back to you.
All right. I will stay. I will
skip myself.
I will stay addressing.
Sure. Please
I can I can certainly understand Remin's eagerness to defend his government, and that is fine. But the truth crushed to the ground always rises. You cannot suppress it. Mr. Stanton stated emphatically that if Mr. Dwyer dares him, he's got text messages, he has emails to justify his statement. And we are waiting for the finance minister to take on this challenge to publicly tell the Liberian people this is a lie. It's been how many days now since he's made this allegation? Don't you
Since
think
Monday, I
this
think.
public, since Monday and it's Friday, don't you think this public official that is being paid by the dime of the Liberian people owe it to the Liberian people when such a public ridicule is being made about his integrity, of which is in charge of our revenue, to come out and inform the Liberian people that, listen, this is untrue? An open challenge has been given to him? Or is he interested in the silence that further gives credibility to the information that we're hearing? Is this how we want to run national institutions for the greater good of the country, that our finance minister can be publicly accused and you justify by creating a faulty equivalence by saying this man is an indictee? Then what then do we say about the three individuals that was indicted in the president's cabinet, especially the one in his office, Nathaniel McGill? Is it fair to also, by extension, say that in no way the U.S. government will indict somebody in the president's office and the president is not aware of the corruption that is happening in his office? Arrests.
Thank you. Back to you, Randy.
Okay. Thank you so much. Stanton has been indicted. As far as integrity goes, there is nothing beyond that. There's nothing beyond that. He chose a pathway that has created an imbalance in one of the most powerful and I would say fair country in the world. There is no way any institution, whether it is media or any platform, that decide to bring Stanton Witherspoon and not focus on his legal matters than any other matter. Because as it stands right now, there is nothing that he can talk about that anyone would like to listen to but his own case. There are people who are accused today that may have conversation, but as far as big platforms goes, when he gets on the platform, he will be in the hot seat about answering questions. He says today, I have to beg my wife to come out here. That means that there are legal reason that prohibits him from coming on any platform, because he will further indict himself, because normally people in such a situation will stay away from any platform. But I got it. And Dr. Faith had to make his case because he's in opposition. So he doesn't see things the way other people will see and say things, because they are not opposition as the way he is. But I want the Liberian to understand that this guy, called Stanton, he has no good reputation. This is a guy who wants to take shortcut in this country, where you and I work very hard. And everything he had done, it had ruined a lot of people's lives in this country. And for such a guy to come out and want to provide information, and we know what he's currently going through, I find him as somebody that is not only irrelevant, but a very destructive and very bad individual that does not belong to the country.
Mr.
He wants to come in now, so he wants to come in. Are you going to allow him to come in? Because when I try to come in, he said we want to go around the loop. So let's be honest there now.
No,
but that's how it works. You can't continue talking on. You have to, at some
so right now when
point,
he
come
don't
to a
talk in,
period.
right now when he don't talk in, and I say I want to come in, you're going to say let's go around the circle again, right? But he interrupted me.
That's how it works. So after Pastor Ade talked, we
what's
came to you. After
Randy,
him, we went to Pastor
Randy,
do you watch the show?
I just need you to understand this. We are having
interrupt. Go ahead, interrupt.
We are having
A dialogue.
conversation that's going
Yeah.
around, right? So we have
Yeah,
to take
but when I
some
try to
minutes.
flow with that, when I try to flow
Well,
with
the
that
thing is,
conversation, then I get red
if
flag.
you filibuster, there becomes a problem.
I don't
So
filibuster. If you
okay,
watch
let me
all the
let
time
you
I come
talk.
here,
Let me
I
let
don't
you talk, and
filibuster.
then I'll come in. I will wait
Okay,
quietly.
but I will stay in fly and start interjecting. But then
Okay,
when you
it's
come in and then you
9:40.
say, when I want to come back,
9:40. Go ahead. Finish.
all right?
Len.
All right. So as I was saying, Stanton Witherspoon, even in the United States, is not considered to be anybody relevant. And such an individual, I would not be happy to see him on any platform trying to provide any information to any Liberian because of the humiliation that he had not only brought on Liberians, but on people of color. Because when you listen to the FBI field office spokesman, this is a man who tried to take shortcut in this country. That is a stigma that will embarrass every one of us here. So a guy with that kind of character, when you listen to Mariah, when you read what Mariah listed out there, Mariah that sat with him on that platform, she even came and debunked what he wrote over there. I hope you guys have read it also to see how inconsistent and untrustworthy the guy is. So as far as I'm concerned, the lie he told about his so-called lady in charge of his station down there going to the finance minister.
So that's why I
You
said
go to
you're
the finance minister
filibustering. That's why I said you're filibustering, Randy.
and carry an invoice and see the layer that you go through.
That's
Dr.
what I'm
Fitz,
saying. You're
Dr.
filibustering.
Fitz,
You alone
let's
talking
leave him and
for the
see
rest of the
Dr.
how
time.
long
Fitz,
he
you talk all
talks.
it. You talk all
I'm
it.
testing him.
All right. So as far as Stanton Witherspoon goes, I don't think he's relevant to even be discussed yet. I think we should be focusing on how long he's going to spend in jail, what's going to happen to those who he cares for before and never thought of to get himself involved. That is the topic I would like to have. But as far as the issue of making up stories of that he cannot substantiate, if he claims to have the information, let him provide the information, and then the Minister of Finance will be able to come out. Because if the Finance Minister come and say, I had nothing, he's going to say, oh yeah, he has something. So he is the accuser. The burden of proof is upon him. Let him provide it. And I challenge him to do that. I challenge him.
Okay, so Letty.
Go ahead, Dr. Fitz.
Yeah, Letty is off for now, so I was just coming. First thing first, I hate when, instead of intellectualizing a discussion, it becomes petty and personal. No, I don't belong to any political party. No political party out there will tell you that I'm on the roster. Not one single one. Read my lips. Not one single one. And I told you, even the CDC reached out to me and I ignored them. Someone very high within the CDC, and I ignore them. Okay, I don't. And the reason for that is simple. I don't think the Liberian people are being treated fairly. So because of that, if I can see a candidate who's able to prove, who can cogently talk about job opportunities for Liberians, maybe that's when I would join a political party. But for now, no. Nobody will tell you that I've joined them before. Never, ever. Okay? So that's number one. Let's get that clear. Number one. Number two, you can't say with a straight face that someone is accused of something and should not have an opportunity to be able to speak to that thing. It makes no sense. And that's the reason why you even have the courts, because that is an opportunity for someone to be able to provide their side of the story. Initially, you started by saying that Stanton should not be allowed at all. But then it looked like you walk it back a little bit by saying, you modify your statement by saying, if Stanton should be brought back, it should be only to engage him on the topic. It should be an opportunity to speak to the issue. Okay? Now, all I can say in wrapping up, until Stanton has faced a jury of his peers, you have no right and do not possess the ability to make a statement that denigrates the reputation of this person. And strictly speaking, from a journalistic point of view, I would not have allowed you, unless of course this is a propaganda outlet, to just come here and besmear someone's reputation without any kind of proof. Okay, and if you notice, we've been very critical of government and other people, but what we've shied away from is smearing reputation. We've not done that yet. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Fisk.
All right, so can I come in now? Because that's the rule
Reverend
now, right?
Adatus?
Can I come in now, or you go to Adatus, right?
That's right.
Okay.
If he has a comment,
So,
unless he doesn't.
So since Randy is in the business of correcting names, my name is Idatus or Adi, not Odatus. But quite frankly, Randy is very hot under the collar. He really wants to defend the indefensible. And what is very clear is when you're making statement with such confidence that somebody is going to jail, I'm so much intrigued by the confidence with which he has in the American justice system. I certainly hope he can have such a confidence in the Liberian justice system under this administration, where unresolved murders can be, taken through our court system, our government can investigate and prosecute it. I hope one of these days, Randy will be able to say, I'm proud to say that this administration demonstrates an act of justice with respect to the drug bust that happened in Liberia, 140 million. We have no understanding who are the culprits. The gun running we have in the country, we have no decision, no prosecution, none whatsoever. Who are the culprits? The way you boast about the American justice system, I'm hoping, Randy, that one day you'll be able to boast about your own system. And there is a very basic rule. It's innocent until proven guilty. Stanton Witherspoon is not running for office. It is your government that is asking us to give them another mandate to lead for the next 6 years. And if Liberians are asking questions about an allegation on our justice minister, he owes us a responsibility to explain to us why he's been accused of an individual that you refer to as an indictee by law, but yet has no moral responsibility to tell the Liberian people whether or not this is true. Arrest.
Thank you, guys. I
Thank
want to
you.
sincerely apologize. My system is acting up, and there's nothing fishy going on. So I don't want you thinking that this platform is compromised. Nothing such is happening. My system is completed at a work, and I hope that you understand. Letty Brooks, you can take it over from there.
Yes. So thank you, Randy. You said you had a rebuttal.
Yeah. Yes, I would like to come in. So I listened to Dr. Frisk trying to say that I walk things back. No. Why it is true that he doesn't deserve to be here, I try to give folks the understanding that whatever platform or wherever he goes, he should only be concerned about his legal, because that is the hurdle that is before him right now. As far as I am concerned, this is a man that has no integrity, no moral standard, and nobody, even at this moment in this country, going to give him any face until he get out of that battle. So whatever he says, it is irrelevant to anybody in this country here because of what he found himself in. So with that,
Randy,
he has no ground. Says, Bravo, why you want to interrupt me again? why when I'm talking? Yes. Please, I beg you, my sister, let me have my say.
okay.
Have my say.
Unfortunately, we're on a time schedule.
Yeah, but when the other people talking, there's no time. But when
Yeah, I'm watching everybody's time.
You don't talk the longest on the platform.
I beg you, let me learn. Let me learn. All right.
You've been talking the longest on the platform, though. The kindness was given to you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This man got no moral ground to say anything. It is structure in which he presented the case got a lot of holes in it. There's nothing else he said but all lies. And I don't want your audience here to believe he's Stanton Witherspoon. He's a guy who has been indicted and he got no ground. One more thing before I finish, Dr. Frisk. You spoke about being very speculative or being prejudgmental. But you saying the president did not create any job. But let me remind you, when Mr. Weah was playing professional football, He had businesses in the country. He created jobs. He was not running for any office. Whether the business went down, today in America, there are stores that you once used to see that went out of business. But when you look at Boca, you look at Cummins, they got no history of creating jobs. So when it comes to President, we are creating job as president, which he's doing and making progress. There is no history that Boca or other has done so. So I'm just trying to say that when we try to label things, we have to be very, very careful in how we do it. I understand that you believe in the justice system. I believe in the justice system in Liberia. The work that the government is doing, arresting drugs dealer, arresting arms, the fact that it's coming out, we have a judicial system that is very weak, and the weakness is based on our past, and it's making progress. The question we should be asking is, do we have the logistics and the capacity to process these cases? Because government takes risk here and there, and most of the cases are uploaded into the judicial system or the court system in Monrovia, and we don't have the district courts how we have them here. So, Reverend Ade, I'm proud of the court system in America because of how it is structured and it is not biased. I think we should be speaking to the challenges as far as resources go, human capacity, than denigrating the government. So we should not be preempting things. But I would say to you, Stanton Witherspoon is a guy who has brought you mediation to us. And I don't think his story about what he said with Mr. Tuet, I don't think Mr. Tuet need to come out here. Let Mr. Witherspoon provide his story here. And, he has been accused. He's not preparing his documentation. Let him bring what he has. Again, Mr. Tuet, let's get to see it. And that when now we can use that and say, Mr. Tuet, yeah, what the man said. But by him coming out to say things, that's the same word that he used and lied to other people today that got him in trouble today. So I don't take a word for it. Let him provide the documentation.
So Randy, let me just quickly say,
I would say, you see, says Robert, she didn't say anything. She look at different and you're talking. And
no, I just want
to. But I'm ready to talk.
He just said that, so he's the round table.
I enjoyed the show today. I really enjoyed it. I do.
Go ahead. Of course, we allow you to go it, so you really gotta enjoy the show.
It's just something I want to say quick. I mean, So what I want to say is that you mentioned that we had some openings and the rest of it. I know you had
job for Liberians.
FM and the rest of it, but you also do know that Cummings has a school in Liberia, right?
Yeah, how much is tuition? How much is
no, that's not no. That's no. It's one thing. Listen. Go ahead. Listen. This is how we discuss.
Go ahead.
Here's the issue: has he created a job or has he not created a job? He has created a job. Now, the second question would be.
Answer your own question.
I'm coming now. The second question would be, how expensive is this and how is that and how is that? We never investigated King's FM and the rest of it to know whether we were overpaying or underpaying his employees. But you just made a blanket statement that, yes, we are creating.
I'll give you the
coming now.
Okay.
We are created jobs. Okay. So on the basis of that, I'm also just trying to remind you.
With your own.
And as a disclaimer, I'm not an ANC person.
I'm not going to hold you for that.
No, I'm coming now. I'm not an ANC person. I'm not a Cummings supporter. As a disclaimer, let me put that out there.
Go ahead.
But when a statement is made that's dishonest, then of course we have to speak to it. We are, like you said, he had one or two things going.
Businesses in the country.
Businesses before running
before he launched.
So does Cummings right now. He has a school, right? So he also has a business. School is a business, is a place of learning, but it's also a business. Okay. So I just wanted to make that correction as well.
Yeah, but you see, here's the difference there, right?
Randy, it's my time.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Right,
go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And guys, we're like 6 minutes to 10. So now we're gonna do our closing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Pastor,
no problem.
To say before we
close?
Yeah.
Ahead. So when Mr. Dapper was asked jobs created by this administration, he pivoted to the private life of Mr. Weir, because quite frankly, they cannot account for any jobs created by this administration. When you oftentimes ask them to tell us, other than the concessions that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf signed and brought in the country, tell me what new concessions your government has signed and brought in the country that has created jobs. They can point to one. The roads they're talking about today were money secure and paid for by the previous administration that he is criticizing today. So once again, the fact remains very clear that government owes explanation to its people that have given him the mandate to lead. And for you to sit here and consistently bloviate as if to say the Liberian people can see through what you're saying, it's quite frankly laughable. Liberians are very much tired of the inconsistency, the lack of structure, ineptitude of this administration. And all they're asking is for a president or a government to meet up with the expectation, the mandate for which they've been given. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Adi. At this time, we'll be doing our closing. Brother Mr. Randy, can you please give us your closing? Thank you for being here. Closing argument.
I know you can't wait for me to get out. I can start, but yeah, I'm very tempted. When I look at my county, River, I'm from River G. Yesterday, I got a video of River G. The street did not only show lights, but they ASHFORD as well. When I grew up over there, during the 130 years administration, the Elling, the improvement that particular county has today, it was never. The road leading to Cummins County, where he had not even created a job, is a disgrace. Cummins, he has been benefiting from the people of Liberia. This man built condominiums where he renting from people renting from him, but he not providing opportunity for the common people, but he charging them. He's running a school that is funded through a foundation. The money he claimed on his taxes. I don't see that as job creation. Coming is only benefiting economically. Mr. Weah, prior to coming to public or becoming a politician, he provided job opportunity. He provided job opportunity for Liberians. And I would like to appreciate him. And Reverend Ade, you are seeing many opposition going to the country coming back and giving the good news. But as a pastor, you got to be very, very truthful to the words that progress are being made in the country. But we should only speak to doing more. As far as Witherspoon goes, that man is an indictee. He shouldn't be on any platform. If he does, let him talk about illegal matters. It's more than just that 50,000 that he's making up. Thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate your time and all of your enlightenment.
All right.
And you can stay as they do their closing too. You don't have to leave.
All right. Because I want to join my guys in right now. I want to join my guys in right now on the show. My show starts at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
You may go. Dr. Fraser, let you finish. All right.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay.
Long story short, I want to thank the audience for tuning in and watching this lively debate that we've had this evening. Liberia is a pseudo-democracy, and the transformation from a pseudo-democracy to a full democracy requires leaders having the political will to do the right thing. The reasoning behind the justification of apartheid in South Africa was that Caucasians were adamant that Black people left to themselves would be corrupt and treat their own kind less than humans. And that's what we see, not only in Liberia, but in most of Africa. Our leaders need to be assigned a whip before they can do the right thing for their own people. And that's sad. All of these people that have matriculated to the presidency at some point performed admirably outside of Liberia. But for some reason, when they come to Liberia and their own people, you have a completely different story. I hope this election will be an opportunity to fix the wrongs of the present, because 1847 has gone and is never going to come back. What we have before us are elections, and the idea of elections is to make sure we correct the future, and let's endeavor to do that so that we'll have a good posterity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fitz. Pastor Ade, did you close already?
Yes, I closed already. Thank you. Greetings to all of those listening audience. Thank you for listening and following the show.
Yes. I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Mr. Randy. Thank you to all of you who came to watch. We hope that you learned something tonight, and we ask that you come back on Monday. Our new time is back to 8 o'clock by popular demand. So we say thank you to you all. We look forward to seeing you on Monday. Have a great evening, a great weekend, and a great Palm Sunday for those believers.
Thank you.
Pastor, please close us in
Thank
prayer. Can you close us in prayer as
Most definitely.
Yes,
let us pray. Father, we thank you for this time of discussion. It is clear that while we as human beings, we project our thoughts and feelings about who we desire as leader, we know that you see best. And we're praying for a leader after your own heart, an administration that looks out for the people and not itself. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you all. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Shalom.
Bye-bye.